Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. 3, 2, 1, but you really have to call out to Krishna this time. You ready? Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Krishna! Apana samstritim goram yanama vibhisho granan tata sadya vimucheta yad bibheti swayam bhayam. The Srimad Bhagavatam begins the first chapter by describing the holy name and how one can overcome the frightful condition of repeated birth and death by calling out the name of the Lord. In any dangerous position, says the verse, one should call for Krishna, as he's personally present in his name, and he's feared by fear personified. And I wonder if anybody can remember the principles that we talked about yesterday regarding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Yes, Ranchur.
Bhoga-tyaga, the acceptance of enjoyment and the renunciation of such. Then chapala-sukha, flickering happiness. Sangha and seva. And then also the process of taking prasadam and chanting the holy name of Krishna.
Haribol. And a comment about atheism, which is carrying over from yesterday. It's a contradiction in terms. Someone who claims, as might be represented by the word atheist, that there is no God, as in contrast with the idea of an agnostic. Does anybody know what agnosticism is? What? We have plenty of mics here, so. I forgot my songbook. If there's an extra one, I can use it. What?
Someone who doesn't accept or deny the existence of God.
What's the evidence from the word itself?
Gnostic. It refers to the Gnostics from the...
Where does the word come from? Yes?
It comes from gnosis, which means to know.
And where does that come from? I'll give you a hint. It's spelled in a very funny way. How is jnana spelled? In a very funny way. It derives from The word know derives from gyan, and gnostic also comes from the same source. So agnostic means one who just doesn't know, or says, I'm not sure. Or atheist means somebody who says there is no God. But if you say there is no God, it's a self-defeating statement, because in order to know that there's no God, you have to be God himself. So only somebody who's in knowledge of everything and everyone, all times and all places, circumstances, could possibly know that there's no God, but then that would also be a contradiction, because that person would be God. It's intellectually dishonest to claim there's no God. It doesn't work logically. If one says, I'm agnostic, it means I haven't received enough information yet. And in the Sri Upanishad, Srila Prabhupada says that all forms of incompleteness are experienced through the incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. In the favor of those who take to the reading of the Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam, there's complete knowledge of the Supreme in various features. For instance, the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that the Supreme is Advaya Gyan Tattva. It's one. But at the same time, there's a variety. Can anybody think of a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam that describes how the Absolute is one, but also has variety within it? Should I give hints besides calling a Shastra Sarprada? Okay, give us the verse. You're going to kick yourself when you hear it, because you all know the verse anyway.
Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanamatayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate.
Yeah, so the absolute truth is described as the complete whole. It's one without a second, but at the same time there's varieties within the complete whole, which is Brahman, the impersonal energy of the Lord, Paramatma, or the localized situation of the Supreme within everyone's heart and within every atom, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada gives a guided meditation where he invites the reader to be observant that we have a body, but we're not the body, because we can observe the body. And the same goes for the mind. We can observe our own mind, we can objectify it, therefore we can see we're separate from it. We can also ascertain, he says, that the senses that we employ every day have power beyond what we ourselves can provide. We can appreciate that there's a higher power that's enabling us right now to see or hear. And then he talks about how when we're trying to solve a problem, we get intelligence. You ever noticed your own intelligence? I was noticing my mind the other day and intelligence, and I was appreciating how subtle it is. That nowadays we have technology that's quite subtle, but the mind is even subtler, and the intelligence is even more subtle than the mind. Indriyani priyanyahur indriyabhyat paramanaha parasastusa. He mentions Indriyani priyanyahur indriyabhyat paramanaha manasastu yo bhudhe paratastusa. Means that there's a hierarchy that we're in the midst of. The lowest is the senses. Above the senses, the mind. Above the mind, the intellect. It's even more subtle than the mind. And above that is the soul. And what's above the soul? Super soul. We can perceive all those elements. And Prabhupada invites us in that purport to notice that the intelligence gives us direction. The way a parent might give direction to a child. You're working on a problem, and then it comes to you, if you notice it. When I was a kid, we had there was a toy that was quite popular. And it was an 8-ball, and you'd ask it questions and then turn it around, and then an answer would pop up. Why, you've heard of that? That's funny. And of course, a broken clock is right at least twice a day, and oftentimes it would come up with the right answer, but it seemed quite mystical to us kids that out of this little vessel, answers would come in somewhat of a coherent way. So when we notice our own intelligence, Prabhupada writes, we can notice the presence of Paramatma, who's giving direction, and he calls that the form direction of the Supersoul. And so the logical chain continues when Prabhupada mentions that the definition of the Supreme, or Bhagavan, is not simply to be an order supplier for others. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate enjoyer. And therefore, one can logically understand that the Paramatma, who's providing intelligence and who's empowering our senses to be able to interact with the world, isn't the ultimate. There's another entity or aspect of the Supreme that's even higher, and that's Bhagavan, who has his own interests, his own planet, his own realm, and he enjoys separate from the material world. So the process of Krishna consciousness is fortified by getting complete knowledge. That's also mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter. Can anybody think of a verse in which Sutta Goswami says that when we cultivate knowledge, one aspect we should cultivate, and also detachment, or our activities of bhakti should be fortified by knowledge and detachment. Now I practically gave it away. It says, Taccadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pasyantyatmani chatmanam bhakti shruta grihitaya. And that is that devotional service is fortified with knowledge and detachment from the world. So I'm saying this because there are philosophies everywhere in the world. There are spiritual processes. However, as I mentioned last night, in response, Gary, to your sort of a conundrum about hearing atheistic philosophy and then feeling a little bit put upon that, oh, what do I do now? That everything, all knowledge and logical explanation of the Supreme is available through the Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam. In the preface to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes that the book itself is so complete that by finishing the first 9 cantos, then completing the 10th canto, 11th, 12th, said one will be prepared to defeat the atheists, to be able to defeat atheistic philosophy. Therefore, it's very important to study the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gītā so that one feels fortified from the onslaught, Prabhupada said, of atheism, which is quite pervasive. And Siddhanta Bolya Chitanakara Alash, Iha Hoite Kṛṣṇa Lagitsu Dridmanash. Kaviraj Goswami says, when you have that, then you have a very strong mind. Because when you're very clear, you've understood logically how there's a Supreme, and you understand the details of what the Supreme means. For instance, Jiva Goswami talks about how God isn't impersonal. He has unlimited energies. And this is one of the teachings that Lord Chaitanya gave to Sanatana Goswami. He said, Eka desha stitasyāgnir jochna vistaraniyata parasya brahmana shaktis tateram akilam jagat. It's a very simple example, but it's something that anybody can understand and appreciate. He said, just as the sun is in one place, but it has energies that are diffused throughout the whole universe. So similarly, the Supreme is in one place and he's one entity, but his unlimited energies expand throughout the universes. Eka desha sitasyagnir jochna vistaraniyata. Does anybody know what scripture that's from? It was quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's from Vishnu Purana. And then he says that Vishnu Shakti para prokta kshetra gyakya tatapara avidya karma sangyangya tritiya shakti ishite. He says the God Bhagavan, has three categories, main categories of energies. They're unlimited, and there are limited categories of energies, but there are three main categories. Does anybody know what they are? Vishnu Shakti para prokta, yes. Name one. The internal potency, we sometimes say the spiritual potency, right? What else? External potency. So internal, external. We're missing one. Who can fill in the blank? And marginal. So one can categorize the energies as internal, external, and marginal. And this is important because sometimes people make category mistakes. For instance, there are transcendentalists who say that everything's the same because we're all one. And they reduce all the energies of God into one category and say there's only one category and that's God, and there's nothing else and there's no variety. You know what that's called? Nirvishesh, or shunyavadi. Non-specific. There's nothing specific about God, they say. Everything's amorphous and one. However, it's a more perfect understanding, and it's realistic that there are varieties within the oneness, which include the marginal energy of the Lord. And there's even a very clear explanation of why there are varieties of energies and why there's an internal potency, or why the one has become many. Do you know what that is? Who can say why the one has become many? For 50 points. And it's a really easy answer. Okay, go ahead, Ram. I'm just calling on those who I haven't seen yet.
I don't have an exact Praman for this, but maybe if God was completely perfect and unlimited, then he would not need to be reduced into one energy and can enjoy in many different ways and has different...
That's the key word, is enjoyment. If we give you the same kind of ice cream every day, how are you going to feel? I don't know how you feel, but when I was a kid and Baskin-Robbins came out, my brother and I freaked out. I mean, we couldn't believe it. That was the best thing that ever happened in our lives. And to go hang out there and just pick whichever one we wanted and go back next week and pick more varieties, more combinations. And so, eko bahusham, there's one, but the one becomes many for enjoyment. And the more variety there is, the more enjoyment there is, because variety is the mother of enjoyment. And why living entities in juxtaposition with God? Because if you have a king, but you don't have any subjects, what's the point? Can you imagine a poor, lonely king who had no subjects? Doesn't it make you sad just thinking about it? Say yes. Yeah, it's very sad. I hope that doesn't keep you up tonight. King means subjects, those who are serving, those who are panegyrist. Does anybody know what a panegyrist is? Did anybody here getting a degree in panegyrism? Panegyrics? Go ahead, tell us what it means. Panegyrist. Did you look it up?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a person who delivers or writes a panegyric, which is which is a formal, elaborate speech or written work full of high praise for someone or something.
Yeah, a panegyrist is somebody who praises somebody else. And that's our job. The living entities praise the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have a very interesting and deep nuance in the philosophy that we follow. And that has to do with this principle of God being the enjoyer. How does he enjoy? And where does he get the highest kind of enjoyment? Who wants to say?
He enjoys via rasa. And
The highest is,
First say in general terms, what is rasa? What does it mean in layman's terms? If you're telling the guy in front of a CVS store who's just putting stuff in his car and you're explaining to him about rasa, what is it?
It's the relationship between God and the one who loves God.
Very good. Love. And king without a kingdom, without subjects, doesn't mean anything. The supreme enjoyer, who's all attractive, has unlimited energies with nobody to appreciate them, doesn't mean anything either. But the supreme enjoyment, according to Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad-gītā, Śrīmad Bhagavatam, or Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is the loving relationship that God, Kṛṣṇa, has with his devotees. And that brings us to why Lord Chaitanya comes to the world, or that is why Kṛṣṇa comes to the world. He comes regularly. Who can say why he comes to the world in the first place, according to Kṛṣṇa? Yes. Chaitanya ni kainamanite.
He says he comes to the world from
Quote a
time.
verse. Give us the Sanskrit first.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir-bhavati bharata upayānti hi dharmasya tadatmanam surjamaya.
One more.
Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatuskritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
Brief summary of what that means.
Kṛṣṇa says that he comes every millennium to destroy irreligiosity and establish religion, and destroy the miscreants as well to protect the devotees.
Yay! Nice work. So why does Lord Chaitanya come?
Kṛṣṇa comes as Lord Chaitanya because he wants to feel what Radharani feels for him. And there's internal reasons, there are external reasons described in that first chapter of the CC and in further chapters. Internal being, he wants to feel this mood. External being, he wants to preach love of God to everybody.
Is there anything that God doesn't know? Okay, well, we have two opposing opinions. You said no, or is this an Indian? Yes. Okay, we have a very confident voice in the front here. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm neglecting the back tables. Are you just telling me we've run out of time already? Okay. 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 Is there anything that God doesn't know?
Mahaprabhu appears to experience the love that Radharani has, and so he doesn't know that, and desiring to experience the love that she feels, he comes as Mahaprabhu.
That's an interesting nuance, isn't it? God's all-pervading. He says in the Bhagavad-gītā that he knows everything, right? Right? Yes. Support your answer, please. What's the verse? Good. You know it? Say it.
Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaśćana.
Basic meaning?
Krishna knows everything and everyone, but no one knows him.
Yeah. So what's this thing about Lord Chaitanya doesn't know something? Doesn't understand the depth of Srimati Radharani's love for him. This is stated in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it goes to the internal reasons why Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For 50 points, now make it 75. Who will quote the verse? Go ahead, you got it. No half putting your hand up. Give her the... Just belt it out there.
There's two verses, but the first one is Shri Radhaya Pranaya Vikritir Hilatanir Shaktir Asmat Tasmat
Eka.
Oh wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got it.
Ekatmanav Abhibhuvi Pura Deha Vedam
I switched over verses for you. I think.
The next.
Start over.
Shri Radhaya Pranayam Vikrimak Kritisho Vanadeva Swadhyena. Wait.
No, you got it. Just say it. Just say it. Do it without the thing. It's more fun that way.
Shri Radhaya Pranaya Vikritir Hilatanir Shaktir Asmat Ekatmanav Abhibhuvi Puhateya.
That's switched over. You were starting Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidusho Vanayaiva Swadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima Kidusho Vamati Saukyam Chasya Yatmano Bhavata Kidursham Veti Vapat Tadbhavata Samajani Chikar. We'll give you 74. You take it? 74 points. Yeah. So now give an explanation of what that means. Yes.
So the verse is talking about the love of Srimati Radharani, and it's saying, Saukyam chasya madanu bhavata kidrisham veti lobhat. He develops greed to understand the joy that she experiences in relishing him. And with that mood, he enters into the womb of Mother Shachi and appears as Lord Chaitanya.
Yes, but there was two more points in that verse. The happiness, right? Saukyam chasya madabam. Is that what you said, happiness? Let's start at the beginning then. Say the first line. So pranaya, the love. He wants to know the love of Srimati Radharani because he notices, Krishna notices that Srimati Radharani enjoys more than Krishna does because of the intensity of her love. So how much more does she enjoy than Krishna does? Approximately. 1 time? 2 times? 10 times? Am I getting warmer?
Yes.
100 times?
Yes.
10 million times?
Yes.
2 people said yes.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Be a little more confident.
Yes.
That's correct. So he sees that his devotee, his chief devotee, enjoys more than he, and also is able to appreciate his beauty. And therefore, he wants to come and taste the same thing that the devotees taste. This is a nuance in our philosophy that the one has become many. There's rasa and love, and there's a story behind it and how Krishna comes to experience the love of his devotees. This is not only philosophically very sound, but it's also beautiful. And therefore, we have a great advantage because all forms of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. Therefore, by knowing the nuances of who God is, what his energies are, not making category mistakes like I'm same as God. For instance, I was on Sankirtan with Dayanidhi one day, and we were in front of a store with a table. We had a table of books. And a man came up to him and he said, I'm God. What do you think Dayanidhi said back to him? He said, you're God-like. And the man said, I'm God. And Dayanidhi said, you're God-like. The man said, what do you think he said next? I'm God. It went on for about a minute, back and forth, and the man finally turned around and walked away. And a half hour later, he came back and he said, all right, give me the book, how much is it? People don't know. They think they're God. It's a category mistake. So, tattva. Who's heard of tattva? 1, 2, 3. What's tattva? Tat is the same word, the exact same word in English as in Sanskrit. Tat. That. It's a demonstrative pronoun. That is a tambourine. I can point to something and say, and define what it is. That is a book. So thatness, tattva means thatness. There's a sense of you're able to determine what something is and point to it and categorize it. And when we talk about tattva, we talk about the different categories of energy. For instance, in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna gives a catalog of all the lower energies, because we already defined that, or took from the Vishnu Purana that Lord Chaitanya taught, that there's 3 main energies. What are they again? And marginal. And what's a list? Who can give a list, besides anybody that I've called on so far, a list of the inferior energies? There's a list. You can read it. You can put it on your wall. What's the list? Part, go ahead.
Earth, water, fire.
Are you answering or are you giving it?
Earth, water, fire, air, mind, intelligence. Oh, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego.
Let's count them. Did you get them all? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. How many does that make? So is that a list? Do you all agree? Then he says there's a different energy, a different tattva, a different category of energy. Who can say what that is? Yes, Shrikar.
The jiva exploits those inferior energies.
The jiva who exploits?
The marginal energy, the jiva.
Okay, can you quote the verse? It's the next one after that one.
Yeah, I just know it's the one after Boomerang.
Let's get a little momentum. We'll say the first one, and then you'll probably just all remember the second one. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kamano buddharevacha ahankara itiyame vina prakritir ashtata. Ready? Apareya mitastanta prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam darite jagat. Very good, everybody. Thank you. If you didn't get it, all you have to do is do a chapter a day. Add it into your repertoire, into your diet. Always chant at least one chapter of Bhagavad-gītā a day. If your mom's driving you somewhere, just say, Can I read you my chapter? Or if you're standing around waiting for somebody that's always late, just take time to chant your chapter. So the next verse says, besides these inferior energies, there's a superior energy of mine, and guess what it is? You didn't have to guess. It's you. It's the conscious being within. Consciousness is categorically a different energy than matter. And this is a mistake many moderns make when they assume that consciousness is a product of the combination of these lower material energies. And in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, Kṛṣṇa says, it's not a combination, they're completely different. He says it there, and he says it out in the 13th chapter of the Gita, and he says, real knowledge means being able to understand the difference between the inferior energy of which this whole cosmic manifestation is made up, the chairs, the tables, everything, and the conscious being. They're two different things. Most people don't know that. They have no idea. Therefore, they say, oh, I'm an atheist, because they get confused. And this is something in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna says, Vita raga vaya kroda manmaya mamupashita bahavo jnana tapasa putama bhavamagata. He says, in order to be situated solidly in your real life means your life of relationship with Krishna, you have to overcome three things. You want to hear what they are? Raga. Raga means irrational attachment to the lower energy. Why would we get even mixed up at all with the lower energy? What do you think? Does anybody have a reasonable answer? Veda? Why would a perfectly good living entity who's part of the spiritual world, who's a category superior to matter, get attached to matter in the first place? It's not a great idea to get attached, but why would we do it?
Because they want to be the enjoyer.
Okay, they want to be enjoyed. That's a nice answer. Anybody want to give any more philosophical answers? That's a good philosophical answer. You want to enjoy, but why enjoy matter? If it's a problem, yes? Why would we try to enjoy matter?
Because we also think that we are this body, therefore matter, and therefore we think we'll be happy by enjoying the same category.
Why would we think that?
Ignorance.
Yeah, but let's give the living entity a little bit of a benefit of a doubt. That should tip you off.
As we are conditioned, and
Okay.
Because of the conditioning, we are illusioned, so we act under three modes of material nature.
What about that illusion? I can tell you're thinking of it. What excuse could you give the living entity? Let's give the living entity a little break here. What do you say? Shall we? Give us a break. I can tell you're thinking the answer right now.
They've forgotten their relationship with Krishna.
Yeah, but how could we get a relationship with the material nature so easily? Yes.
Association with the three modes of material nature?
Yeah, but why would we do it? Shall I give you a hint? You got it. In the context of let's give the living entity a little break, why would we get involved with the three modes of material nature and illusion and all that? Yes?
And envy of God?
What? Envy of God. Yeah? Something more tangible. Okay, I'll give it up. Because this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. In other words, it seems like a good idea to get involved in matter. Because when you see the reflection, it's got all the qualities that we're looking for, right? What qualities are we looking for? Beauty? Yes? No? You don't like beauty? You like ugly stuff? Okay. Beauty. How about variety? Does it have variety?
Yeah.
31. How many flavors is it, Baskin-Robbins? I even forgot. 31 only. They haven't increased. 31 flavors. It's got variety. What about love? Can you find love here in this world? The answer is kind of. It seemed like a good idea because the material nature is a mirage. What's a mirage? Have you ever seen a mirage? Come on, Florida, have you seen one there? California, my parents used to take us to camping trips. We drive across deserts and things like that to go to the mountains. And at hot times, you'd see a lake. At least my brother and I in the back seat of the car, we had a lake. And the parents say, no, that's a mirage. I said, what's a mirage? It just looks like water. I said, no, that's water. We'd bet our allowance on it. Before I swore off betting. But at the closer we get to the so-called lake, the more it would recede. And then we finally had to capitulate and say, you're right, it's not really there. And so the material world is reflected. Who can say in the Bhagavad-gītā where it says it's a reflected image of the spiritual world? See, this is authoritative. That's why we're going to hear the verse. Go ahead.
It's somewhere in the 15th chapter. There's 15.
It's right at the beginning.
15.2 or 15.3 dash.
Let's try it. Pretend we're at a grain ceremony. Urdva mulam madashakam ashvatam praparamyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda saveda vid ajashchorvam prashritas tasya shaka guna pravida vishaya prabala adashchamulan anusantatani karmanubandini manusha loke. Those couple of verses beginning in the 15th chapter, Krishna says that this material world is a reflective surface. The three modes of material nature reflect the spiritual world, 180 degrees, 180 degrees. Therefore, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but it didn't turn out so well. So, first thing is raga. It means an irrational attachment to matter. So Krishna says you have to give that up. And don't worry, because there's something much better than matter. It's the spiritual world, which is the thing we're really looking for. What's the second thing he says we should give up? Bhaya means fear. Now, what are we afraid of? According to Prabhupada, we're afraid of personhood because there's so many disappointments in relationship. And the ultimate disappointment people have is with God, and they think that they're being abused. If there is a God, he's a monster, therefore I want nothing to do with him. So they become so-called atheists. And third thing is krodha, which means anger. Oftentimes, this idea of atheism being against God comes from cynicism and being disappointed and then becoming angry. So Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is simple but profound. And anyone who studies the basics of his philosophy can overcome these three. And then he says, Krishna says, how do you overcome them? He says, jnana tapasa. What's tapasya? Yeah, and jnana? Now put the two together. The austerity of knowledge. It's a little austere going to school, right? Yeah, because you have to study. I was just upstairs studying. I'm studying for an exam that I have to really cram for because I have to be finished before the end of next month. And I'm having to strain my brain to remember things, memorize things. And so It's a little bit of a tapasya, but if you do the tapasya of knowledge, of cultivating the knowledge of what Lord Chaitanya teaches, then you'll be able to not be afraid of the atheistic philosophy. You'll be very clear about who you are, who the Supreme is, and what it means, what God means. What's the definition of God? What's the definition of the living entity? How we're in a predicament and how to get out of the predicament. So Lord Chaitanya starts his teachings in a very simple way. Says Sanatana Goswami asks him a question, and it's not a very Rasika question. Do you know that Lord Chaitanya met Sanatana Goswami and Sanatana asked a question? Does anybody know what the question is? Rancho. Just call it out. He asks, who am I and why am I suffering? So let me ask all of you, is there a root cause to all suffering?
Yeah.
One person said yes. Is there one cause you could say that causes all suffering? Yes. 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 Yeah, and that's what Lord Chaitanya answers. He begins to teach by giving the very simple answers to a very profound question. Because whoever asked this question? Most people try to counteract suffering, but they don't ask, where is it coming from? Why am I suffering? And so, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks to Sanatana Goswami, he gives the nature of the living entity, and that our nature is that we're eternal servants of Krishna. And when we act according to that nature, then we don't suffer. Can you think of a song that's in my head right now, that I'm about to sing, in which the Vaishnava Acharya says that very same thing? What is it? Jiv Kṛṣṇa Das e Vishwas Korleto Tukonai. Dukkha means? Duk means? You know what Tukka means? What does it mean? What do the words mean? Ka means space, and du means bad. Did you ever hear somebody say, if you're in California, I'm a really bad space, man? It's a literal meaning of dukkha. And what about sukha? I'm in a good space. Ka means space, ether. So dukkha means we're in a bad space because our consciousness, our chitta, fills up with lower energy, the dark energy. Tamas, rajas, agitates our minds. We get to sattva, then we start to have expansive consciousness and we become happy. That's a characteristic of sattva, expansive consciousness. We feel naturally happy. Rajas, we just agitated all the time. I'm not grouchy. And tamas means you can't stop lamenting and feeling oppressed and unproductive. Those are the three energies. And so, how do you come to sukha and beyond? Jiv Kṛṣṇa Das e Vishwas. He says, just have faith in this one principle of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. It's all you need is one principle to become happy. Shall I say what it is? Because you want to be happy, right? Okay, only 3 of you said yes. Everybody else cover your ears. Jiv Kṛṣṇa Das e Vishwas Korleto Artukonai. If you say, I'm a servant of Krishna, you want to try it? Yes. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm a servant of Krishna. How do you feel now? Happy! And if you keep in that vein, I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm a servant of... Lord Chaitanya. I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. The more you can be in that vein, then the happier you become. And here's how the song goes. Radha Krishna bol bol bol. So what about that Chapala Sukha? Chapala Sukha means it's happiness, but it's flickering. Did you ever get flickering internet? Yes. Doesn't it bug you? You think you're on, or how about on a phone call? You're trying to talk to your friend and it keeps breaking up. Did you ever say, hey, we're breaking up? And they go, we're breaking up. He said, we're breaking up. So, flickering. There's no happiness in the material world. It's not enough. Let's analyze how much happiness is in the material world, shall we? Give you a scientific explanation of exactly how much there is. Gary, you ready for this? You're in the desert. You're very thirsty. You're dying of thirst, in fact. You got to have water. A man comes to you. He says, I have water, I'll give you. Relief, right? Not so fast. He pulls out an eyedropper and takes one drop and puts it in the palm of your hand. That's what you get. Is it enough? How much water do you want? A lot. And so as living entities, we want the reservoir that doesn't run out. But in the material world, we get what's called, and Lord Chaitanya said it, I said it yesterday, we said it tonight, you get what kind of happiness? Chapala Sukha. It's happiness, but it's not enough. It's flickering. And even if you did get some water, there's something in it. And you can't keep drinking it because it doesn't taste right. Something's afoul. So this Chapala Sukha, it's always something that messes it up. You know sweet rice? What if we put sand in it? I mean, gritty sand. What if you're eating a nice prep? What's your favorite prep? Shock? I like shock too much. Shock Krishna Ashvadihilo. Hey no shock Ashvadane Krishna Prema Aisemani. Lord Chaitanya liked it. He said, he's taking shock. And he said, this shock is so good. Krishna has definitely tasted it. Anyone who takes this shock, they'll attain pure love of God. What's your favorite preparation? Okay, you don't like shock. What do you like? Gulab jamun. What are we going to put in the gulab jamun? Salt. That's Chapala Sukha. What's your favorite prep? Yeah. Khitri. Rice? What kind? You like basmati, with butter on top? A little butter, a little salt, and what are we going to throw in there to ruin it for him? You took a light bulb and you crushed it up and you sprinkled it in there, and that's basmati rice with crushed light bulb. That's what they're serving at the best restaurants in town. That's what you get in the material world. It's Chapala Sukha. Lord Chaitanya said, yeah, of course there's happiness here, but it's ruined. It's got something in it that you're not going to like. And even when the real thing supposedly comes, it's just a drop. You have to keep drinking. It's just one little drop. So he said there's lots of different kinds of misery here in the material world. And he said there's 3 kinds of miseries. Would you like to hear about misery? Does it make you happy to hear about misery? It's really fun to talk about. What are the 3 kinds of miseries, Lord Chaitanya said? What's one? Adi-daivik means? It means right now in America people are getting smashed. There's huge storms going through, freezing, flooding, right? Daivik means from nature. It's coming from the devas, that something's amiss. Too hot, too cold. What else can be there in the environment that messes things up? Cold, hot, what else? Okay, well that's a different one. What's your second kind of misery? I'll represent you. Adibhotik, miseries caused by other living entities. Tell me 5 living entities who bug you, cause you misery, yes? Mosquitoes, the #1 killer on the planet. Did you know that? Look it up. There is no other cause of death that comes even close to mosquitoes. They're the largest killer in the world, and have been for decades. And they're really tricky, aren't they? Okay, 4 more. Yes? Drivers who don't use their turn signal. I'm with you on that. It's one of my pet peeves in life. Okay, 1 more? Yes?
My siblings.
Your siblings drive you crazy. Okay? 2 more?
Driving in India.
Driving in India. Anybody driving in India. And? Somebody who wakes you up at 2 a.m. to give you food.
Flight attendants.
To give what? Flight attendants who wake you up at 2 in the morning when you're on a flight and trying to get a little rest to try to give you some contaminated food. Okay, we could go on for a long while with that. And how about, what's the third one? Adi-atmic, which means caused by your own body and mind, right? How many diseases are there in the world? Let's start with A. Name 5 diseases that start with A. Alzheimer's. Alopecia. Is that what you said? Asthma. Arthritis. Abdominal. Abscess of any kind. We could stick on the A's, we'd be all night. Then you get into the B's, botulism, bronchitis, C's, cancer. You don't need much more than the C word, cancer, D. Take anyone and there's some disease. And what's the cure? What is it? Prahlad Maharaj said about Valshutta? He said, the dukaushadam tadapi dukam itadhyaham. He said, I think that these diseases are bad, but worse than that are the so-called cures. Have you ever heard those advertisements for a particular disease? It's a 30-second ad, but the next minute and a half, it's a guy talking as fast as he can. He's paid for that, to tell you all the side effects. And one of them always that it could kill you. And so that's the condition Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said when you talk about chapala sukh. It's flickering happiness, and there's these 3 kinds of miseries that are ubiquitous. They're always there. And so he was telling Sanatana Goswami that the problem is thinking that this material world is a place where I can enjoy my body and so forth. But if we become Krishna conscious, which is a really simple thing, it may not be easy, but it's very simple. It means to come back into our normal consciousness, which is to be servants of Krishna. Jiv Kṛṣṇa Das E Vishwas Korletor Dukanai. And then there's no more duk. There's no more unhappiness. So it's very simple. And as far as atheism goes, the great teachers of bhakti who have documented the path include very commonsensical ways to speak logically about the existence of God and about how we prove it. First of all, you have to establish what you accept as proof in any experiment. And then if we want the logical details, they're all available there in the Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam. And as far as the practice goes, it's direct. Pratyaksha-vagamam dharmyam. It's not just philosophical, but it's something that one can experience directly for oneself. So now just take a few reflections from the day, from yesterday, from this morning, or from our time together so far today. Yes, Ranchor Prabhu.
I actually have some questions on this topic.
Okay.
So we can understand that, like logically, that there's a God, and we understand that the Krishna conscious philosophy is theologically sound, but I still feel there's a difference between something being plausible to be correct and something that's actually correct. And we understand, yes, pratyaksha bhagamam dharmyam, through following the process, we understand it's correct, but it's like somewhat of a little bit of a logical leap to say, okay, just because I feel happiness from chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that, okay, there's this whole spiritual world out there with all these planets, and okay, there's like a bunch of kunjas and everything. There's like this, I feel like it's a big leap. So I guess the first question is, what exactly is our faith for the details that are mentioned in Shastra supposed to be based upon?
Can you rephrase the question or say it one more time?
What exactly is we understand that the philosophy is logically sound, but we may not know if it's the actual...
But just ask the question in one sentence.
What is our faith in the philosophy supposed to be based upon? If we feel that the practice is...
Unless you use a semicolon, it's more than one sentence. Try it in one sentence. Make it simple. What's the simple question?
How can we accept, what is our faith in the philosophy and accepting the entire philosophy supposed to be based upon?
First, we accept that we exist. All science accepts that we exist. Right?
Right.
Okay, prove that you exist.
We just feel it.
Do you ever get hungry?
Yes.
How do you know when you're hungry?
You know.
Yeah. Every philosophical system is based on self-evident truths. There are non-empiric ways that we understand various things. And even when it comes to experimental science, or using our senses for the world, we base things on metaphysical truths. For instance, that we can know things. Otherwise, why would you experiment with anything? Why would you even pursue knowledge if you thought you couldn't know something or come to some kind of conclusion? And we also accept that we exist, but you can't prove that empirically. It's something you know. Every system of investigation starts off with some axiomatic truth. And in understanding Krishna, we also start with some axiomatic basis. So you say, what is the evidence, or what is the proof that God exists? So then we have to ask, what do you accept as truth? Or what do you accept as proof? And that's a reasonable question to ask when you're embarking on any experiment. And for instance, proving yourself that you exist. You have to give an answer, which is, I just know. And so every philosophical system starts with some source of knowledge that proves itself. And so what do we accept as proof are the shabda, the evidence that comes through the Vedas. It's infallible, it proves itself, and that's the axiomatic starting point that gives evidence of a world beyond this one, the difference between the body and the soul, and so forth. And as far as an experiment goes, you have to take the axiomatic information and then apply it in a scientific way. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who pointed this out, what I just said, then said there's various phases of experimentation, starting with sambandha, and that is getting to know through hearing what our relationship is with God. And then there's abhideya, or a way that we can use our senses to interact with God. And then third is that we come to prayojan, to a realization of the Supreme. And so we take a very reasonable approach by having a clear, self-luminous source of knowledge and then applying it and getting a consistent result.
May I ask a quick follow-up?
Yeah, and faith also, that's a word that is often taken to be something that is flimsy or as opposed to empiricism. As Krishna mentions in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, that everybody has this faith. It's just expressed in different ways. And Shraddho Bhayam Ye Purushaha, the person, whoever we are, is based on a sense of faith in something. And according to the modes of nature that we're looking through, that's how our faith gets formed. But pure faith is based on our eternal identity as a servant of Krishna. And so the definition of faith given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahi Suridanis Choi Krishna Bhakti Koilas Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. That when one is practicing Krishna consciousness and develops a confidence that by engaging in this, then all other things are, everything is subsumed under this practice. All other things will be dealt with properly by becoming Krishna conscious. This is the definition of Shraddha, of putting our confidence in Krishna. And the follow-up question was?
Yes. So we also may feel that we have logical answers to atheistic philosophies, and we have some experience in the Krishna consciousness, of the taste that we have while practicing Krishna consciousness, but the mind puts forward these atheistic arguments, and we have come to realize that it's just because the mind doesn't want us to engage in devotional service, but rather forced us to enjoy the material. So how do we get over this? How do we prevent our mind from doing this, or how do we stop our mind from doing this?
You have to find your own sincerity. Sincerity is infallible. It cuts through the darkness, it cuts through the obfuscations of the mind, or the escapism of the mind trying to escape responsibility, which are based on those principles, raga, upaya, krodha. For instance, people sometimes live in denial, as an example, because they're so attached to a certain kind of activity, which is addictive, but is harmful. If somebody tries to intervene and say, it's not good for you, you shouldn't do that, they try to ignore it and just keep doing it. And people try to sublimate their experience of the world and their relationships by other kinds of escapism and intoxication and so forth. And then anger, krodha, because it's confusing and people become cynical or angry. So sincerity, Kṛṣṇa says in the Bhagavad-gītā, is the infallible way in which one can come to understand clearly who one is and who Kṛṣṇa is. He says it in the 10th chapter of the Gita. Teṣāṁ satata-yuktānāṁ, bhajatāṁ prīti-pūrvakam, dadāmi buddhi-yogaṁ yena upayānti. He said, if you're sincere and you try to understand me, even in the simplest way, even if you're not taking advantage, Prabhupada writes in the purport, of a religious practice, if you're just sincerely eager to know who God is, then Kṛṣṇa says, I will give you the information from within your heart. I'll show you the way. So the way we can overcome those other distractions is by sincerely asking to know the truth. It's infallible, and it's worked since the time immemorial. Any living entity anywhere in any era or culture who asks the abyss, please reveal yourself to me, show me who I am, show me who you are, please reveal. Then Kṛṣṇa says to that person, dadāmi buddhi-yogaṁ, I'll give intelligence. When one gets intelligence, one can defeat ignorance. And ignorance means ignorance. It means I'm ignoring the truth, I'm ignoring what's obvious. To be engaged in some inferior activity. And oftentimes it requires an intervention, and that's why we distribute books. You know what book distribution is? It's an intervention. In fact, you can tell people that when you come up to them. You go up with a little group and say, what's your name? Larry. Larry, listen. We came to talk to you today, Larry, because you're in ignorance. Yeah, you should try that. Dilip, we have something for you. But what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami is these literatures are a knowledge intervention. He said, Maya Mugdha Jivana Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan. He said that people never come out of ignorance on their own, practically. They have to have an outside influence. GYR Krishna, Kripaya Koila Krishna Veda Puran, and it's provided through this knowledge that comes down from Veda Vyasa. And if you give it to a living entity, then they can help themselves. It intervenes in their ignorance, wakes them up. Who else had their hand up? Yes.
Thank you.
Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This is kind of following up on Ranchor's question, but from a different angle. So, I guess the distinction, I want to make one distinction first, which is what we present externally as our position and what we internally have faith in to be true. So, first of all, first question, is this distinction valid? I'm going to maybe claim that this distinction exists, and I'm going to try to define what that line is between what we can externally very justifiably claim and what we actually believe with our faith. So for the first part, at least in my opinion, things like arguments against atheism, arguments for general Vedantic philosophy of karma, reincarnation, and arguments for existence of divine absolute, and even arguments against Advaita to some extent, can be put in this category of stuff that you can justify fully on the basis of, with a small set of axioms, fully on the basis of just logic and reasoning. I think you can put those in that category. But for things such as, for us, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we tend to align towards Vrindavan Krishna with a certain mood with which we approach Krishna because of our line of acharyas. At least from my understanding, that position can we make the claim that that position is also absolute, that that is the, I know we don't say it's the only way, but we do say it's the highest way, and I do genuinely believe that, but is that something that's more of our internal faith, because we have faith in our acharyas and our bhakti, that we can say that? Because for me, I find it hard to put that level of claim within the part that you can very easily justify things, again, like Vedantic, basic Vedantic philosophy. So at least in my point of view, something like our alignment towards Vrindavan Krishna would be in the second category, and then I'm trying to figure out, first of all, is that correct? And then second of all, where do I draw that line? And then when so I tend to discuss Krishna consciousness with people a lot, like non-devotees and devotees. I will always be very strong and unwavering on what I view as on this side of the line, and on the other side of the line, I will always say that this is from my faith. So is that like a hedge? Is that correct? And then where does that, if that is correct, then where does that line draw? Does that question make sense, Maharaj?
It makes sense.
Okay.
And firstly, every living being has a unique relationship with Krishna, because every living being is unique, and every relationship with Krishna is unique. That's the miracle of Krishna's creation and the eternal existence of entities who are part of him. And in the specific point you made about Vraj Bhakti and Vrindavanam, there are nuances there, because there are different kinds of devotees who love Krishna in a particular way. And we find, however, that we have listed hierarchies of what's best, very clearly listing what's best, like Vaikuntash Charito Vara Madhupuri Tatrapi Ratsotsava. So the word Vara, Vara, Vara that comes in there, that better than that, better than that, better than that. And the way, of course, we talk about how there's perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. That's even within the realm of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We talk about how there's Mathura, there's Dwarka, Mathura, Vrindavan. So perfect, more perfect, most perfect. Which is always such a uplifting idea. There's perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. And that's a bias. It's a bhakti bias, because love for somebody specific in a specific way always has a particular bias, because it's a very individual, particular way that we love somebody, or that why we're worshiping them, why we think that's the best place we should put our heart. Shraddha, that's what that means. And so that is something that is honored. The differences. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for instance, when Anupam, he told them, chant the Krishna mantra. And he came back to Mahaprabhu the next day and said, I can only think of Ram. And Mahaprabhu said, yes, you're a Ram Bhakta. So Lord Chaitanya, for instance, is Swayam Bhagavan himself, and everything's attainable through him. And of course, any relationship, although we give some hierarchical understanding out of a sense of bias, it's all perfect, a relationship. However, when it comes to explaining why one would worship Krishna over Narayan, that's something that's very internal. It's not something you talk about if you're giving a forum at a place where people don't have any context. In fact, I heard Prabhupada in a lecture, somebody was asking in a particular context, what's the difference between Krishna and Narayan? He said, same. They're the same. Because they are. And in another sense, everything's the same, because Vananti Tat Tattva Virav, it's all Vaigyan Tattva, it all comes from one thing. It's not complete, whole, absolute. And so for some people, when they want to know what the difference between Narayan and Krishna is, we say they're the same person. Of course, Prabhupada gave the explanation. Narayan, he's on his way to work. more formal environment. Whereas Krishna, why does he play a flute? He probably said, because he's all play and no work. He's not working. And when explaining within the context of those, for instance, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met with Venkata, who was a highly learned scholar and who worshipped Lakshmi Narayan, then there was a discussion, a good-hearted discussion, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was describing the superiority of the love for Radharani, for Krishna, and even pointed out that, where he asked the question to Venkata, so why did your Lakshmiji try to join the rasa dance? She performed austerities for many thousands of years to try to come to the qualification to enter, so why did that occur? And in that, he's pointing out the superiority of Vraj Bhakti, even though for other people, same. Or as they say in Thailand, same, but different. And so that's due to rasa, understanding. When we talk about all Krishna's qualities, he has 4 more qualities than Narayan has. What are they? It's very sweet pastimes with his devotees. Flute. Beautiful. Peacock feathers there, that's not one of the ones, right? We said the flute. And his wonderful pastimes, which take place like we sing Damodar Leela. You don't find those with Lord Narayan as a little baby stealing butter or something like that. And so in the point of rasa, there are more qualities. Okay, you say, okay, this is better. But if somebody's attached to Lord Narayan, then that's also perfect. Within the realm, there's 2 different realms. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So when you're talking to your friends, you talk according to the context they can appreciate.
So just to clarify, like, if my formal position is that I won't make a claim about these distinctions, but I view one as higher, is that a consistent claim? Is that a consistent? I think you are sort of saying that, but if I just make that more explicit, like at least that's how I've been operating. As
context appropriate. It's context appropriate. If you're talking to one of the devotees here, let's say after this, then Shastra Sarprada corners you on the way out and wants to talk about a certain superior, situation in Vraj or something like that. Then you guys can argue all night and it'll be fine. But in other contexts, it won't make a bit of sense to other people. They won't understand anything. You just need the basics. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. This will be the last one because we have to do our Gita.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I remember like 3 years ago, I went to an ex-devotee's house for a sleepover because I guess we still had some relationship with them. So when I was at the house in the morning, before I was about to like leave and stuff, they asked me a bunch of questions.
Closer with the mic.
They asked a bunch of questions and they started doing Vaishnava Aparad to the Acharyas and about Bhagavad-gītā in 5th canto to me. And since at the time I was like 9th grade, 10th grade, I didn't know much about it. And I left the house feeling, I came in happy, but I left sad because I didn't know my faith was my faith in the Shastras at that time was immediately gone. And it took a lot of time to slowly regain my faith in Shastra, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, how should I go about this in the future? Let's say a devotee comes up to me and starts, it happens again.
Well, I wouldn't go for such sleepovers.
At the time, I was in 9th grade, so I couldn't do anything about it. But
if you couldn't get out of it, just tell him you have some weird disease. It said it's not communicable, but I looked it up on ChatGPT and it said it is. So it's up to you guys if you want me to come over.
Yeah, I guess. So I guess like my main question is, for example, like fifth canto, where I feel like my fate in that canto feels very much contested.
When's the last time you read the fifth canto?
Not much. Not a lot. Not a lot.
Have you read the whole fifth canto from cover to cover?
No.
Well, that's where I'd start. So what happens is people who don't understand something enter into one of these three categories: raga, bhaya, krodha. Krodha means they don't understand it and they're agitated because it's very difficult to deal with life and you got to be angry at somebody in order to have a position. And so then they just become angry at Krishna. And then they'll say, well, Bhagavatam says this or that. And if you haven't read it, you won't be able to digest what they said. It'll just be like, oh, I feel helpless. But we're not helpless. We're human beings. And we can pick up the book and read it for ourselves. So what I would do, what I recommend for you to do, is read the fifth canto if you have questions about it. And when you go through it, if you find the same doubts, then write them down specifically so you can ask an intelligent question, very straightforward question. Why does it say this or why does it say that? And then ask somebody who can give you the answer, who has developed context and clarity and understanding what the fifth canto is all about. And there are lots of people like that. And then your doubts will be dispelled. So it's a good thing to have doubts. This is what Kapila Dev said. One of the functions of the intelligence is to doubt. And doubting is meant to triangulate, help us triangulate until we come to Siddhanta, or something that's very clear. See, there's this problem in philosophy that goes way back. And there's two basic schools. One school is the deconstructionist school that says that there is no answer to anything. Everything's only a process. This has been going on since the beginning of philosophy. And then you get those like Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, who have the position that no, the conundrums that we face, the doubts that come up, they're all answerable. There's a way to come to clarity, to Siddhanta, and questions can be answered. Not that nothing is knowable to us. We can't know everything like God knows, but we can come to absolute clarity, and from that clarity we can have conviction. And that is the process of Vedanta. Vedanta means there's an end to knowledge. There's knowledge, Veda, right? Anta means what? The end. What's the end? It's the beginning of devotional service. So there's a way to become clear about these things, but you got to do the work. So you're intelligent and you have an opportunity to read these books. So read them. If you want to get back at the people who ruined your sleepover, read the book. And because they're taking up space in your head even now. And the atheistic arguments that scare us, you scare them right back again. Get on to what's being written by the great acharyas. They're there to protect us. It's not that we can't know anything. And that goes for other kind of conundrums, frustrations that people come up with okay, ISKCON's like this, or somebody said that, this is a miss here or there. Do your homework and figure out what it means to live in a religious institution and what it doesn't mean. And become clear about it so you can live a very happy, prosperous life and not be tipped over. And so that's why we have the discussions, that's why the Shastras are there. It's not just an entertainment or a sport to see how many verses you can learn. They actually are edifying and they give us very strong understanding and clarity about who we are and what's the purpose of life. So on that note, let's do the half of our Bhagavad-gītā. Me half Would you like to do just the English or just the Sanskrit? Okay, let's vote. Just English, raise your hand. Okay, just Sanskrit? Okay, we'll do the English. Okay, what page? I just realized how important it is to know the English. You want me to tell you how I know? Because for my Bhaktivedanta exams, they gave us all the verses that we're supposed to memorize. And I can truthfully say I know 99% of them in Sanskrit. But to be able to verbatim say the English, which I've never really taken the trouble to do, is to memorize verbatim every verse. It's a high hill to climb. And it's really nice to, now I'm becoming more engrossed in hearing English translations. So the next time this happens, I'll beat it to the punch. Okay, let's do the English to 11th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā up to text 22. Can we have a little drone? Thank you. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity, and have realized your inexhaustible glories. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. If you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied divine and multicolored forms. O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashvini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard before. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Sanjaya said, O king, having spoken thus, the Supreme Lord of all mystic power, the Personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of that Supreme Person in that universal form. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expanses of the universe, situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances, and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Arjuna said, my dear Lord Kṛṣṇa, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva, and all the sages and divine serpents. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere, without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence, spreading on all sides like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible, and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of God. This is my opinion. You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you blazing with coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying, "All peace," are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadyas, the Vishvadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder. Om Tat Sat. Mm-hmm.